What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch with SC Weather. Happy Friday. Hope you are kickstarting your weekend off good. We're going to talk about we're going to be talking about here the future into next week and the potential for severe weather across the deep south, the southeast, even the Carolinas. And we're going to really talk about what we know. We've been talking about this the last couple of days as we've kind of pulled away from talking about the snowstorm that's going to slam the Front Range starting tonight into tomorrow. You also got some ongoing supercells going on in the Panhandle of Texas. Some tornadoes have already been seen. No crazy damage or anything. Are just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But active weather definitely going on right now. It'll continue through the weekend. But we're going to talk about active weather, the potential for it as we get into early to mid part of next week, and then it progresses east, possibly affecting us here in South Carolina and just the southeast in general, potentially the mid-Atlantic. We're going to talk about some things. So if you guys have not subscribed, consider doing that. Growth is incredibly slow right now because there's just not a ton to talk about. I covered the eastern U.S., so thank y'all for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you like it, and share it with your friends and family. And thank y'all for the incredible support over the last few months. So we're going to start off by looking at the GFS like we normally do here. And here it is. So let's make this a little bit smaller here. So what we got here, we're getting into next week. Now, the main thing I want you to focus on here is the amount of energy that really gets going. We've been dry for a long time here in the southeast and the mid-Atlantic and just the eastern U.S. here. But this is all going to change next week. We get into early part of next week. Here's the system that's going to deliver the impactful event that's ongoing right now, the possible potential for more tornadoes in the Panhandle of Texas and western Oklahoma tomorrow, and the snowstorm in Denver. But this is going to crank up some kind of weather here in the deep south. What that is, severe weather, not sure. We're also going to be watching maybe a brief CAT event. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody starts off with sleet or snow here briefly in Virginia, but it's not really much to talk about there. But this area, and it just looks like a bunch of green, a little bit of dark green, yellow here, but check it out here. You know, keep in mind, the GFS is not a short-range model, so you're not going to see discrete storms. But what I want you to focus on here is the amount of moisture you see and how active it is down here as we get into the latter part of the week. And then you get an upper-level low. This is what we're going to talk about that swings through and sweeps through some cooler air, but along that is a cold front. It looks like some kind of linear threat. We use the term linear a lot. Basically, it's a line of thunderstorms that could potentially be severe. Now, just looking at this from longer range, and this is Thursday morning, overnight, Wednesday into Thursday morning. That looks like a line of storms to me. So we're going to talk and break all this down here. So, as we get going here, we're going to really look at the European model here. And as we're going in time, it's the same situation. We got very active weather here in the deep south. This could be in the form of storms. You got a first event, and then you get moisture that gets going here in the Gulf. It could really be in the form. I'm telling you, it looks like there's going to be a heightened tornado threat here in the deep south. When I say deep south, I'm talking Louisiana, Mississippi, potential Alabama, and Georgia. I think the National Weather Service or Storm Prediction Center is going to start to talk about this more this weekend, and I really think they will. The thing is with these first little events here is I think cold air damming is going to prevent areas of northeast Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina from this first it's basically going to kind of limit severe weather as far as the first waves of energy. The big time wave of energy I'm watching for here in the Carolinas is as we get into Thursday. Now the timing of this is going to be big. If it does kind of what Euro is doing and it gets this into parts of South Carolina, North Carolina in the warming of the day Thursday, then you have the potential for more severe weather. But we're going to break down what we know as we get a little bit closer here. So what we're going to look at next basically here is, if it would speed up a little bit, thank you, is wind energy. And yes, it's 850 wind speed, but basically how fast the moving air is moving in a layer of our atmosphere above us. And you notice, obviously you need a lot of wind energy. It's a component for severe weather. But you get into early part of next week, what I'm watching here is this cutoff low, this upper level low gets spinning here, and it pivots energy into the Carolinas and Georgia. And this is what I'm watching for maybe a line of storms, some kind of squall line as you get into. Now I'm talking about an event that's potential for an event 6-7 days out. But severe weather, I'm watching the potential for a line of storms sometime around Thursday. Maybe it's Wednesday night, maybe it's Thursday night, but somewhere next week. This is a lot of wind energy. What that tells me is there might be some kind of squall line with strong winds. The details on it is so fuzzy and it's so hard to know, and it's really because of this right here. It's a cutoff low and it's swinging through. Well, it's this one right here, and basically you get energy. And basically any time, in a nutshell, without getting crazy geek mode on you guys, when you get a low pressure riding north of us like this, you're going to introduce a severe weather threat. If you don't have a lot of cold air damming that limits severe weather, and you have basically a southern flow, southwestern flow, before this dip in the trough and this cutoff low, whatever it may be, brings in dry, stable air, you basically have warm, moist air riding ahead of this front. So you get a brief period ahead of this line of storms, and that's kind of what happened in the day after Easter event for us in the Carolinas and Georgia last year. That was associated with a cold front. If you remember, the next day it was kind of chilly outside. But that morning, you had dew points in the low 70s, and you had an excellent atmosphere for a tornadic event, even in a squall line. So what we're going to look here is this is pivotal weather. So we're getting a little bit closer, and this is the European. As you're moving in time here, you notice you're getting into Monday. You have some kind of line of storms right here for Monday evening. How does that form? How is that oriented? What's the structure of these storms? We're not sure, but that moves through at weekends. I think cold air damming will be intact here somewhere in the Carolinas that really might prevent here. No internet. That's not true. And sorry. Starting back off here, and as you're looking at the soundings here, that is obviously some kind of cold air damming. Look how cold it is at the surface, 41 degrees, dew points and 39. That is a stable atmosphere. There's no hazard. You're just too cold. You're not going to get any type of severe weather. And this is what you got to watch out for. You might get some kind of cold air damming event for the Carolinas early next week. That will knock down any kind of severe weather threat for a portion, really for this first wave of energy. Now, as you get going in time, you're going to erode that. Now, look at this. You see how this is spotted in nature here in the deep south? This is like deep portions, southern areas of Mississippi and Alabama. This, to me, looks, and this is, what is this? This is 18Z Tuesday, so this is Tuesday, just afternoon, early afternoon period. This is kind of a worrisome look. You definitely have some discrete looking, if you're getting like a discrete looking sails kind of on a European model, that tells you right there's something to really watch out for here for the potential for severe weather. So the dew points are high. It's something, there's something brewing down here in the deep south as we get into Tuesday especially. But as you get going in time, I really think this might be a couple-day event. I'm not mentioning the word outbreak or anything, but as you get going in time, that upper level low gets going up top. And why did you do that? So let's go on and get forward here. Wednesday, and then you get into Thursday, and look what happens here. You get some kind of line. To me, this looks like some kind of line of storms that gets going here and plows through the Carolinas and Georgia. The sounding ahead of this, if you click on the soundings right here, say in Columbia, for example. Now it says the possible hazard is TOR, which is tornado. I don't know about that, but that is some decent soundings for severe weather. You have a little bit of cape, not much. But look at the dew points. You have some moist air in place, and so you have a little bit of you definitely have a severe weather sounding there if that was to come true. And then you get going through time, and it moves on out of here. So you definitely have to watch out for this. Now, if we look at the cape here, which is basically storm energy, it's a component you need for severe weather. watch here as you get into Monday, you're getting into Tuesday. Look here, you have Cape building across the deep south. You have some storm energy. You get moving in time, and you have a little bit of Cape here as you're getting into that, as the upper level low is kind of pulling through ahead, and you're basically getting a little bit of Cape here to go with that squall line, which anytime you get some kind of Cape mixed in with a linear threat, basically linear threats are mainly driven off some kind of wind energy, shear, and you throw some Cape in there, just a little bit, and it really can be trouble. So that's something we need to watch out for sure. You flip to this is shear. You get going in time here, and look at the shear. The shear elevates here across the deep south as you get into Monday. There's shear in place. Basically, you get in time here, and look at this. You get an elevated area of shear along wherever this front is. So you have to watch out for a wind threat. Whatever that is, not sure. I'm just showing you all the possibilities of what we got here. So the K index is basically the chance of seeing thunderstorm activity. So I want to show you this because if you look across the eastern U.S. as you get into Monday, check it out here. You have elevated areas of potential for thunderstorms. So what I'm saying is it's going to be active next week. You're going to have a lot of areas of storms. You're going to have, basically, it's going to be stormy. Now, what kind of tornado threat we're going to have? What kind of wind damage chances are we going to have? Any kind of hail damage? We're just not sure yet. So, but there is going to be some kind of severe weather next week. You look at the GFS as far as Cape, and it shows you. It shows you plenty of convective energy next week across the deep south. And there's going to be some kind of threat for the Carolinas too, but I think the Carolinas, earlier in the week, you're going to have too much cold air damming, really affecting this. But as you get this upper level low that swings through, it's going to swing through basically a pattern change to cooler weather, but as it's swinging that through, you're going to have a severe weather threat, I think. I know that's a think, but we're just really far out. Now I want to show you dew points. Check out dew points across the deep south. You're in the 60s. That's more cases than not moist enough, humid enough for storms. Now this is the cold air damming I'm talking about, messing with the Carolinas. This is why, check out that dry, stable air. You got dew points in the 40s and 30s. That's why you're not getting severe weather really early in the week. Now, in time, here comes the big cold front pushing through more dry air. But look at the moist air surging ahead of the cold front. That's an element that you have to watch for severe weather, and then it gets awfully dry, and we might get a little bit of cool next week. I want to show you this too, because we haven't had rain here in my location in 8 days. It's going to get much wetter next week. We're going to enter a dry period, so I recommend for areas in the southeast and the south, the mid-Atlantic, get out there, because it looks like the northeast stays decently dry still. But if you're in the deep south, you're in the southeast, get out there and get your yard work done this week. Don't plant, don't garden or anything, because we could still get cold. But get out there and definitely get some yard work done, because we're going to get much more stormier and much wetter next week. So I'm watching this severe weather threat. This might be the first big one of the season for areas in the eastern U.S. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in, and y'all have a great start to your weekend.